Hello, in this video I will show you how to display the weather data from your ADL in-flight weather system on your mostly panel mount but also other Garmin equipment. Just to be sure, this is different from displaying your weather data on any other iPad app. So for the Garmin Pilot app, ForeFlight, at SkyDemon and so on, there will be different tutorial because the procedure is a little bit different. So this is really about the actual physical devices. In most cases, this will be a Garmin device, so like a GTN 750, G3X or similar, but this also applies to some equipment which is not as common, like a Lynx ADS-B transponder and some similar devices. So the general procedure is that you have your ADL device. Typically you have one of the installed ADL devices, so here I have a 150, but it also works with the 190 or 200. And then as an add-on you have this ADL S1G box, which is typically mounted like a sandwich and then plugged in. And this ADL S1G box is the interface to your panel mounted avionics. The other alternative is a portable solution, and there we have this ADL 180B. The important thing is the B version, because the B version has got the ADL S1G feature basically already integrated into the box. And so these are the two hardware options on the ADL side, and on the Garmin or panel mounted side you have to have a solution which supports FIS-B weather, so ADS-B in FIS-B weather, because this is a channel where the weather is going to show up. For the purpose of this video I'm going to use GDS39, which is this box from Garmin, as the receiver, and to display the weather data. In that case I have a portable unit, this GPS 695 device, just as an example for hardware devices from Garmin. They are all very similar. I'm going to show you the menus on this 695, but on GTN, G3X and so on, it will always be very similar to that. Okay, so the first procedure is obviously to power up your ADL device. So I have an ADL 200 already powered up for us. Now the next step is to connect to the Wi-Fi. So here we are here you see the screen of my iPad. We are already in the Wi-Fi configuration, and now we select the ADL Connect Wi-Fi. We wait for the blue check mark, and now we are connected to the ADL Wi-Fi, and we can switch over to the ADL Connect app. You already see it's connecting. We have the GPS, Iridium and cell signal. Here we also have the artificial horizon for the AHARS, which is something we are not going to use for this test. Then we have to make sure that the configuration is alright. So for the purpose of this video I'm using the ADL app version 9.10, and I also updated the ADL device firmware to version 9.10. This is important. Previous versions will also work, but there have been some improvements. So if you are trying to get this to work, do yourself a favor and update everything to the latest version instead of searching any issues on previous versions. So the first step is to make sure that the entire configuration of the ADL device and the ADL Connect app is done correctly, because this is the most common source for any issues in this procedure. So we have the ADL Connect app running, and we switch over to the config page, and there we scroll down a little bit until we get to the point hardware configuration. The point which applies to our case today is the RS232 GDL90. This is basically the weather data which is outputted by the ADL device on its external port, like on this round interface port, this data is output. And it's very important to have the configuration right. If you have an ADL 180B, it will be the menu will look a little bit different, but will be very similar. The first line is to make sure you have this output actually active. For some special circumstances, you can put it inactive, or you can also put it in a custom mode. In the custom mode, just show that here, you can have special configurations on which data is output. Usually the whole set of data is outputted on this interface, but if you have some special requirements, you could restrict that. So you could no longer send the attitude indicator, the GPS, the traffic, if you have an ADL device with traffic, the 360-degree traffic, which means non-bearing ADS-B targets. And you have the actual weather data, and you can configure which is outputted. But in most circumstances, you simply wanted to have an active default, which means all this data is sent to on the port of the ADL device. Then the next line here is the data format you are going to use. In theory, all the devices should understand the same data, but our experiments have shown that different hardware platforms have a slightly different way of showing the data, and we try to adapt the data we send from the ADL device to the receiving device, so you have the best possible end result on your display in different configurations. And so the most common format you will probably want to choose is the Garmin Basic. That's a format which is suitable for most Garmin devices, and it contains the radar picture and META and TAF. The strike and the cloud tops from the satellite are not included in this data format because many Garmin devices cannot display this data. If you have a very modern Garmin device which can display this data, you can account for this to switch over to the Garmin full format and then output this data. The other format you're going to see is the Evidine format. In most configurations, the Evidine is wired in a little bit differently. It's not with the ADL S1G device, but you can run a direct RS-232 wire connection, and this is the configuration for that case. But today we are talking about doing the wireless link with the Garmin devices, and so this configuration setting usually does not apply. So I suggest to have it on Garmin Basic for your first try, because that usually is the easiest and works best. Then the next configuration is the baud rate. For different applications you can run different baud rates. If you have an ADL S1G connected, it always has to be the last setting 115,200, because that is the preset baud rate of the ADL S1G device. So we have all the settings done. The rest of the settings, they do not apply to our case today. They are for the Wi-Fi interlink with different apps. So if you connect the Garmin Pilot app or ForFlight or SkyDemon directly to your ADL device, you are going to need those settings, but for this application, simply leave them as they are. Finally, if you have made all your choices, you have the button Save and Reboot. You press that, and only at that point the ADL device is actually reconfigured and will reboot with the new settings. At this point, the Wi-Fi will shortly interrupt, as we see here, and it will reconnect and reload all the data from the ADL device. Then we can go over to the update weather page and check the results of our configuration. Now here at the bottom of the update weather page you have all the system messages, and the one we look for is the message from the S1G device. And so here we have got a line from the S1G device. It says which software version it's running, which hardware version it is, which frequency it's operating, and the transmit power. The important thing is that we have this, usually that we have this line at all. There are some advanced configurations we can do, but in most situations we will not even need that. So Just make sure you get this line. This means that you are properly connected to the ADL S1G device. The baud rate is properly the devices and the modules, they are talking to each other. The next step is to download any weather using the ADL device. So there's actually anything which can be transmitted to the Garmin avionics and displayed. So we simply do a normal weather download with the ADL device. We have an ADL 200 in that case, so it can actually download the weather over the 4G LTE network. If you have another ADL device, it will be a satellite download, or you can use the app to download the weather data. The important thing is to remember is that the ADL device cannot transmit the weather data if you do a weather download for the entire European or US or whatever region, but you have to do a weather download just for the corridor, which in flight is the only option anyway, but if you're on the ground you might get confused, so this is something to remember. So I enter a simple flight plan, and then I start downloading the weather for that. So we are currently in Berlin. Let's enter a flight plan to Munich. We go direct to. We have the magenta line, and then we can press the update weather button. We download some meta and TAFs, press single download, and here the system goes and it starts downloading. We have the short messages here on the screen. If we want to have the full download messages, we can go on the update weather page and have it downloaded. It's already doing its thing. During that time we can have a first look. It's already downloaded the weather. We have a first look at our Garmin 695 device, which I have over here, and I'm going to insert the screen for you as the post-production, and you are going to see we have the 695 device. The easiest is to go into the menu. All the Garmin products, they have a menu like that, where you have basically the data link information. So here we have the data link menu, and we see we have GDS39 connected. It's got GPS signal. This is something important, and here you already see you have a line ground uplink signal. There's some green dots, so it's actually receiving the first bits of data from the from our ADL S1G device. It's not received any full set of data yet. That's why it doesn't list any weather products below, but as you can see, the ground uplink is already there, so it's processing the data. The important thing to remember is that it will always take some time for the transmission of the entire weather data, and then most products, in my experience, they have some kind of buffer. So right now you see it receives the meta and TAFs and displays them with 0 minutes, and it also the radar, which it says Nextrad radar regional. This is the name for our radar product on this Garmin device. So it received the data, and now we can switch over to the moving map and have a little look at our data. So we leave this menu. We are here, and below we have this weather button. We press on the weather button, and if we zoom out a little bit, we see that this is the actual corridor which our ADL device did download. I will switch over, and here we have a look at the same weather data. Currently not much weather in there, but we have some small areas of precipitation close to Ingolstadt. And now let's go on the Garmin device and let's see if we can actually find those. And here they are. You see the green area here and the green area here. It's transmitted and it's displayed. We can also have a look at the meta TAF. We go on the ADL device and we see we have, for example, downloaded a meta for Echo Delta Delta Bravo, which is the big airport here in Berlin. And we go to the waypoint page. We search for Echo Delta Delta Bravo. And we have a weather button at the bottom. We can press that here and we see we have a meter 27 minutes ago, and we have 3 hours ago we have a TAF, and this is the data obviously coming also from our ADL device through the S1G device. So this is basically the procedure how it works, and it will be the same on all other Garmin units. You just have buttons which might look a little bit different. Yes, thanks a lot for watching, and if you have any more questions or suggestions, just contact me. Best is to use the email address on the website. Goodbye.